The Binding of Isaac is a roguelite action flash game developed by Edmund Macmillan and Florian Himsel. It was conceptualized when Edmund wanted to make a game that would incorporate procedural generation and religious themes. It was made in a week-long game jam, and after 3 months of game development, they published it on Steam. At first, it had a relatively small fan base until it exploded in popularity, thanks to the Let's Play videos on YouTube. On May 28, 2012, an expansion pack called Wrath of the Lamb was released. It added more items, enemies, bosses, floor alternatives, room designs, 2 optional levels, gameplay mechanics, 2 more endings, and more. There was a plan for a second expansion. However, that was thrown out of the window when they discovered the limitation of Flash. Nevertheless, sometime in 2012, Edmund was approached by Tyrone Rodriguez asking if he has any interest in porting his game on consoles. Edmund was interested. However, he said that the game should be built from the ground up because of the Flash's limitation. He also said that it should have the Wrath of the Lamb expansion built in and the second planned expansion. Tyrone agreed to this, and with his company Nicholas, they began to work on the game. And on the 4th of November 2014, the game The Binding of Isaac Rebirth was released on various platforms. It has a 16-bit pixel style instead of the cartoony design in the Flash game. It added a lot of new things such as characters to play, items to be unlocked, enemies and bosses to fight, floors to explore, and endings to achieve. After a year since the initial launch, on the Halloween of 2015, the game's first expansion, Afterbirth, was released. It added more features and a fun new game mode. 2 years after this, Afterbirth Plus was released. It again added more stuff and a perfectly balanced new boss. More importantly, it officially added mod support, in which the community made a lot more content into the game. Famous among these mods was the mod named Anti-Birth that was developed even before Afterbirth Plus was released. Because it was so popular and well made that Edmund decided that the mod would be officially added into the game as the 3rd and final expansion to the game called Repentance, which added most content from the original Anti-Birth mod as well as some other popular mods and new original additions. The religious theme was inspired from Edmund's own childhood experience. His family was stuck between Catholics and born-again Christians. Even if they base their belief under the same Bible, their views on the world are different, while he admired some of their beliefs. His family would condemn some of his hobbies, notably Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons. He was told that he would go to hell for participating in these activities. Nevertheless, his experience would take form in Isaac, where it shows the positive and negative effects of religion in a child's mind. He even remarked that the Bible is a creatively written book because of how people can come up with different interpretations from just one passage. This also inspired the open-ended nature of the game's ending. The Binding of Isaac has a vast amount of content, from items to synergize with each other to the enemy you will fight. There is an incredible amount of content to be discovered. However, there is still some cutted content that was removed for various reasons. Here are some of them. Raglish can be spawned in-game, however, it is not known if it will keep its attack pattern. Cadavra has only these animation. Edmund mentioned that it might be added one day. While the others are planned bosses made in the mist, is an early version of Min Min. There are also these unused enemies. These are some enemies in the original Anti-Birth mod, but were not added in the Repentance expansion. There is also an unused curse called the Curse of Giant, which would increase the frequency of large rooms. And finally, there is also an unused planned character called Edith, and her main gimmick is that she can only move by teleporting. While she is not in the game, when using the reverse chariot card, there is a small chance for Edith to appear. Because the game is inspired by Edmund's childhood, it has a lot of references to other media, such as Edmund's earlier works from Super Meat Boy, Gish, Time Fuck, Triachnid, Spewer, and more. Magic the Gathering themed items, dice used in Dungeons and Dragons as well as the Monster Manual, Pokemon items, various Super Mario themed items, and of course Legend of Zelda, from the HUD to the gameplay items, enemies, and more. There are also some cameos of Isaac in other games. He can be played in a fighting game named Blade Strangers, and a matching game called Crystal Crisis. There are more references that I won't cover since there are a lot of them. The game series had some spin-offs. The Legend of Bumbo, a matching game with RPG elements, and Four Souls, a card game. Interestingly, one of the cards of Four Souls was drawn by the infamous Chris Chan. Well, to be fair, this was done before the great shit show happened. But it's quite funny that Isaac, a child that was traumatized and abused by his own mother, had a card drawn by a literal motherfucker. With no surprise, the card was later redrawn. While the game has a variety of playable characters to choose from, there are few that stood out, mainly the Lost and the Keeper. The Lost were coded so that you can only unlock it under certain conditions. The dev team took extra precautions when hiding this secret. Nevertheless, after the game was released, it only took a few days after the release until someone data mined the game and found out how to unlock the Lost, which really disappointed the developers. Edmund was quoted,
For everything on my own.
It's disheartening. Like it sucks because it's like, well, we're gonna start working on an expansion soon, but we sure as hell aren't gonna fucking take all the time that it took, especially with Simon, who tried his best to like really bury this stuff so it would deter people from doing this. But all they see it is a challenge, so they're just gonna dive right in and do it either way. But I can say right now that I don't think the expansion is going to feature any buried secrets that that anybody will care about. I mean, it was months of our life.
The Lost can be unlocked on the Rebirth version by doing the following. First, Isaac must die to a Mullaboom in Chapter 1. Second, Magdalene must die to her own bombs on Chapter 2. Third, Judas must die to Mom. And fourth, Azazel must die to Satan. After doing all of this, you can now finally play as the Lost. However, in the later expansion, this was changed into an easier way, as you just need to die when sacrificing while holding the missing poster trinket. After this event, when they released the Afterbirth expansion, instead of coding the secret character in the game, Edmund then decided to turn it into an alternate reality game. With this, even if someone decided to data mine the game, it wouldn't ruin the fun of investigation. After the arc was completed, Edmund updated the game, and it included the Keeper as a new character that you can unlock when you donate 1,000 coins on the Greed donation machine, which is a fun and easy way to unlock a character. Did you know that you could play Isaac on your phone? Well, if you are using an Apple product, you could buy the Binding of Isaac on the Apple Store. This unfortunately doesn't have any expansion, as Nicholas had trouble with Apple. Even the release of this app was riddled with rejection from Apple, citing it as violence towards children, violating Apple's content policies. It's safe to assume that the iOS version would never get an update, as Edmund remarked that the app performed badly. Then how about an Android app? There is none. However, you could technically play the original Flash Isaac. Since it's a Flash game, you could load it up in an Android Flash player, but the performance would be abysmal. So if you want to play it portable, just use a Switch or Steam Deck. In the original Flash game, the Polaroid was a trinket instead of an item. This annoyed players because they had to leave their trinkets behind. This is absolutely problematic if you accidentally picked up the tick and want to go to the chest. This problem was circumvented in the Eternal Edition, where Mom would only drop Mom's purse and the trinket. This was changed in Rebirth, where it's now a passive item, but making Mom not drop any boss items anymore. While the Polaroid became an item, the item Wiggle Worm became a trinket instead. In the anti-birth mod, you need to collect 3 knife pieces instead of 2. And the process to obtain them was different. To get the first piece, you must travel to Dross 2 and find an empty room with a chest icon on the map. Now, you have to bomb the middle of the room, then a chest containing the knife piece will spawn. Second on Mines 2, you have to find this kind of room. Then activate the buttons based on the number of pebbles near it. After doing that, the second knife piece will spawn in the middle of the room. And lastly, the third piece is in Mausoleum 2. There will be a room full of fireplaces and a room full of active and inactive teleporters. Now you have to remember the pattern of the inactive teleporters, then put out the fire in the other room corresponding to the inactive teleporter pattern. And with that, you will now get the last knife piece. This was changed in the Repentance, as some of the process takes time and are buggy at times. Additionally, the mausoleum floors are segmented into 2 areas. To access the other area, you just need to be in the teleporter room and teleport from there. This was removed in Repentance, but the mirrored world in Dross took its place. The game is very intricate with thousands of little game mechanics. Here are some random facts. Inside the game, there is another curse named Curse of the Mist. This is used on the Mother's Shadow area. It disables the player's item with the exception of the starting items. The visage and reap creep while present in Antibirth originated from an art made by Sagittarius. On Repentance, red and purple fireplaces only fire once per room, but if you leave the room and come back, it resets. Mr. Me can steal devil deals, and it won't count to the devil and angel chance. When fighting the boss Great Gideon, you can use the Chaos card on him, and Gideon can give you an access to a secret room containing extra loot. When the game was being developed, its working title is Love Sick. It was then changed to Mom, and finally to the Binding of Isaac. I don't really see other people doing this, but if you go into windowed mode and resize it to a square, you would get this zoomed out view. This is great to use when you are fighting in a large room like Delirium or Hush, and especially useful on Greed mode because of how big and intricate the game is. I'll stop here before it becomes a 1-hour video. As we know, the Binding of Isaac holds many endings, with most leaving the player to speculate what might be happening in the main story. Theories ranged from bosses being real people to Isaac playing with household items, but the main prevailing theories were that Isaac was either over-imagining or was actually suffocating in the chest. Players would speculate endlessly as Edmund added more updates with cryptic endings reaffirming or disconfirming various theories. It wasn't until March 31, 2021, when the Repentance expansion was launched, that fans would get an answer as to what was happening in the Binding of Isaac. This retelling is of my and others' interpretation of the story. Isaac is an imaginative and creative child. He would express his thoughts on toys and paper drawings. However, his vast imagination would be a double-edged sword, as when his parents would argue and when his father left them, he would think to himself that he was a sinner, and it was him that caused all of this. This in turn would make him draw images of disfigured monsters, in which his mother would find. He would escape to the chest, where he would let his imagination go wild. A story when an angel tells his mother that he is a sinner and that he must be sacrificed to cleanse him of his sins. And so the mother obliged. Wielding a knife, she went to Isaac's room. She banged the door as Isaac scrambles to find a way to get out, until he finds a hatch. His mother burst through the door open, with nowhere else to go. Isaac flung the hatch open and fell into the dark depths below. Here Isaac fights monsters in his way. With each boss's death, he saw glimpses of the past and the future. He fought his demons, his angels, his corpse, his death, himself. And finally, in the mausoleum, he would find his dad's note. With this, he ascends from the depths. He went up floor by floor, racing in the familiar floors he just fought in, until he's home. He walked to his mother's room and slept there. But when he comes back to the living room, something comes out of the television. It's the personification of the dogmatic preachers that his mother watches. Isaac clashes with the being with everything he's got. He eventually defeats it, but it doesn't end here. As Isaac changes forms, the walls around him crumble. Then the mother of harlots emerged from the lake of fire. And then... Suddenly, the sky above cracked open, and a white beam of light reached down into the earth, smiting the mother of harlots asunder and setting the blood lake to a boil as the beast descended down into the lake of fire. Isaac ascended towards the crack in the sky, and as he flew he could see echoes of his past before him. He saw his mother mourning the loss of her son. He saw his father leaving them without turning to say goodbye. He saw his mother sleeping, and his father taking money from her purse. He heard the late-night fights they had that kept him up at night, and the guilt he felt for what he believed he was causing. He felt the pain in his stomach during those sleepless nights, and saw his shadow in the closet, waiting for him. As he rose, he felt his fears drop from his body. His shame, his worry pulled from his being. As he became lighter, his ascent became faster. He saw his one true companion, alive and well. He saw his mother and father together again, holding each other. He felt his mother kissing him on the head after he had said his prayers, and the comfort in knowing someone was watching over him. He saw his own birth, and the faces of his parents filled with joy and optimism. And then he saw nothing.
Are you sure this is how you want this story to end, Isaac? You're the one writing it. It doesn't have to end this way. Here, how about we tell it a different way? Maybe a happy ending?
Okay, Daddy.
Good. Are you getting sleepy yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so Isaac and his parents lived in a small house on the top